space. And so our house was just this center of activity.
Yeah.
In a way that I think is common for immigrant households, but in a way that I really, while as a teenager, you're kind of resentful of like sharing your bathroom with 3 other people, there was always activity around. And there's something about that I liken to journalism now, which is like every morning I wake up and I have no idea what my day is going to be like.
Right.
And
right.
that is what I love about what we do, right? And there's so much kind of if you picture like the hubbub of my house of like people circling around each other,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I think of as like a newsroom is like, with people, journalists, ideas.
Yeah, a swirl of lots of activity. And I really appreciate how you said that there's a process to this, almost a rhythm to it as well. And if you think about that from specifically the South Asian lens, I think a lot of us can certainly relate to, strangers and visitors and sharing bathrooms exactly as you meant it. But is that pace of a personal journey important in reflecting or narrating a story effectively? And meaning, does rapid or transient movement or change, even trauma, even the sort of social mobility of that trauma, does that change the typical route of what your memory is of it and the storytelling aspect of it sometimes?
Absolutely. I think it's a little bit of the rose-colored glasses, if you will.
Yeah.
So the nostalgia I have for that home and activity erases my mother in the kitchen having to cook for 10 more people and being resentful of what that represents and her own agency, right? And it erases, kind of not really forming relationships with like our own, we did, but with our own family unit of 5, like there was always people around, which means that it tends to take on a more performative nature of relationship versus, fighting with each other. We would not fight, but I could tell my mom was angry while she was cooking for 10 more people, right? And so, and of course that affects how we communicate in our own marriages, in our work relationships. And so I think there is, I don't know if you were getting at nostalgia with the question, but I think it does shape how we look at our past. I think in some ways my coverage of immigration as a journalist is probably driven by asking people questions that I couldn't ask my parents directly.
Yeah.
And so much of our coverage of immigration, I think this is where you are going, is, they wanted greater opportunity and they wanted a better future for their children. And so they arrived in America. And I've interviewed hundreds of immigrants in my career, and that's never actually the story. It's usually a woman who had to cook 10 extra meals and was sick of it and she just wanted freedom, right? Or it might be someone who wanted to actually marry somebody else and they couldn't, and the only way they could start something new was by leaving it all behind. And so I am fascinated by what you're describing of kind of like, what's the real deal here?